Papa got beats making headlines.
Come down. Ooh, you make my high come down. Always tripping when you come around. I'ma have to cut you off, like right now. You see, I don't want to drive me. You can say that for your mama. Maybe you should smoke some. Me try the marijuana. I was never you good. The vibe was straight. Showed you a couple of things and they ain't feeling strange. I treated you right. Everything was a gift from a time to your bag and the color on your lip. Yeah, you plenty of fences.
Welcome to Seahawks Man to Man podcast, powered by The Athletic. Shout out to the company. My name is Michael Sean Dugar. I'm here with my co-host Christopher Kidd. Make sure you follow us both up on the tweet machine. You guys know where to follow me, so I don't really need to plug that part anymore. I just plug. Make sure you follow us on YouTube or subscribe to the Seahawks YouTube channel or Seahawks Man to Man YouTube channel. That's where we're trying to get this bread these days. So in addition to the audio part, do the YouTube thing too. Chris, talk to him.
What is up, everybody? It's your boy Christopher Kidd. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at CKIDD206 and at CKid206.
We are back with our midweek episode as we preview the Seahawks upcoming game. We took a little bit of a break from having beat writers on because the Seahawks were playing teams that no one really cares about that much. That is no longer the case as they're playing the Packers on Sunday. And to talk about the fighting Aaron Rodgers this week, we have the homie Matt Schneidman. He covers the Packers for The Athletic. What up, man? How you doing?
How you guys doing? Just, calm, no news over here. Just enjoying my last couple weeks.
Yeah, man, he's been real busy over there. You were busy when they lost all their receivers for a game, and then Rasul Douglas comes out of nowhere. Rasul, he's still in the league. Douglas, I know he was still in the league. Every once in a while, I learn a guy is in the league. I learned like Kevin White still in the league. Watching I don't know which team he's on, but I remember learning that he's still in the league. Rasul was one of those, and then you get the Aaron Rodgers news, man. Have you been able to sleep with all this news?
Not really. I mean, my body's still in shambles because for some reason I decided to take a 5 a.m. flight out of Kansas City on Monday morning. So my body takes like 3 days to get used to that. I really don't know why I did that, but it's all right. And now we have this, when this show comes out, Odell Beckham Jr. could be playing for one of the teams we cover. So now there's that. So, I'll never complain because the more news, the more relevant the team we cover in, the more likely it is I keep my job. So I won't complain.
I told people all this offseason, Russ is good for business. I hope he never leaves.
Aaron Rodgers, great for business.
Exactly. But let's go big picture, though, in that regard, because I thought that both of our off seasons were very interesting, and that both of the quarterbacks that we cover basically let the organization know, like, I'm kind of running the ship here, or at least I'd like to be. Mm-hmm. Whether, however you want to interpret that, but they both kind of wielded their power a little bit. We talked for ad nauseum about what that was like for us. But what was that like for you covering an offseason where Rodgers kind of stepped to the Packers a little bit and made headlines for reasons that don't really have to do with football?
Yeah, it had been simmering below the surface for a while, longer than I had even initially realized. And if you go back and listen to some of the stuff he said last year, you could kind of tell. Nathaniel Hackett, their offensive coordinator, interviewed for the Falcons head coaching job in the middle of last season. And Aaron Rodgers was asked if he thinks Hackett is ready for a head coaching job. And Rodgers basically said, praised him and everything. He loves Hackett. And then said, I hope he doesn't go anywhere unless I do. And, he took the jab at the front office for letting go of Jake Kumro, who was their fourth wide receiver in camp last year, released him. Then the Bills picked him up. Middle of the season, I think it was, he was asked about another guy on the team, and he was like, I'm not going to talk about him because last time I, went to bat for a guy, he ended up in Buffalo. So there was some kind of subtle jabs, and ultimately what it came down to, as Rodgers said in that long opening press conference in training camp, is he wanted just to be included more of a voice in personnel decisions that directly affect his job. And that's why Randall Cobb is here. Rodgers and Randall Cobb are best friends, played together for 8 years, and Rodgers felt like he needed a true slot receiver. And that was kind of the first one that we saw. Up until this point, first 8-9 weeks of the season, Rodgers has said, conversations have been much better. There seems to be more transparency. He's gone out of his way to praise the front office multiple times, which I don't remember him doing in years past. So it seems like things are smoothed out now. So we'll see what that means for the future.
You did mention the praise of the front office. Is there a part of Aaron Rodgers that says maybe if things, let's say they make it to the Super Bowl, regardless if they win or lose, does that create an environment where Aaron's like, you know what, they pretty much did whatever I said, and we got this far. Maybe I would return for a year or two, or do you think he's just making up for what he's done in the past, just trying to go out on a positive side of things?
That's a great question. I think he's going to be back, mostly because, as far as we know, he does not get to choose where he's traded to. If they do agree to trade him, Packers would trade him to some junk team like the Broncos, probably. And he knows his best chance to win is here in Green Bay out of any of the teams that he could hypothetically be traded to. Add in the fact that it seems he and the front office are on better speaking terms, if that's the way to put it. And I think if they get past the NFC Championship game this year, which obviously they haven't been able to do the last 2 years, that could probably make him want to come back more. Now, the big thing is what happens with Davante Adams. He's in the last year of his contract. Before this season, the Packers did not want to make him the highest paid receiver in the league in average annual value because, DeAndre Hopkins is making a wild amount of money technically in average annual value. It's like 27 and a quarter or something like that. And Davante said he's not going to take anything less than highest paid receiver money, even if it means, I asked him before the season, I said, would you consider maybe taking less than highest paid receiver money if it means you stay here with Aaron? And he said, no, I'm going to be the highest paid receiver in the league on my next deal. And I respect that.
Yeah,
he said,
me too. That was just funny.
He said, and Davante, like, if you guys knew how he's the best to deal with media. He's always the best quote, just super professional, and he always keeps it 100. And I respected that. So I don't know what that means for Aaron Rodgers' future, but I tend to think he'll be back.
No, I like that honesty too, man. It's like, no, Aaron's cool and all, I love him. I need the bag.
Yeah.
And then when you read more about Davante and like his mom and everything, it's like, oh, okay, you see, like, no, this dude, yeah, he just wants what he's worth, and he is the best receiver in the league. So I mean,
no question.
Wanting to be paid like the best receiver when you are the best receiver makes a lot of sense. One question that people ask me a lot is the beef between Russ and the front office, mostly just Pete, but is that like dynamic resolved or is it on pause? And I don't necessarily have a good answer for them all the time, but I do want to toss a similar question to you. Is it kumbaya yet, or they just press pause while they have football games to play? Yeah,
it seems more like that. The way Rodgers has put it to us is he said, there have been great conversations between me and the front office. I've really liked some of the moves they've made. We'll never know if it's kumbaya. I mean, he did a great job putting on a brave face last year when things were not great. Behind closed doors, I guess we don't know exactly what's going on, but by all accounts, it seems it's a little bit of, all right, let's focus on football first and foremost, but then on the side, let's try and slowly work on this relationship instead of let's try and, get this relationship from 0 to 100 right now, and then we'll go back to football. So if it's something they kind of have as a side project, it seems like it's a pretty successful side project right now because Aaron Rodgers doesn't just go out of his way to compliment the front office about, random signings they've made. They signed Whitney Merciless off the street and, dude had done nothing in Houston this year. And Rodgers, I forget if it was before they played a game with him or after the first game that Merciless played. Rodgers just went out of his way. Oh, it was after. It was after they beat Washington a couple of weeks ago. And he was like, I love the Whitney Merciless signing. I'm a huge fan of that. And it was a question I asked him about Rashawn Gary. It had nothing to do with Whitney Merciless. So if one of his talking points going into a press conference is he's going to go out of his way to praise the signing of their fourth edge rusher, then they're kind of mending things a little bit.
I want to take a look at this opportunity, talked about this opportunity here for Sunday, given the chance that maybe Aaron Rodgers doesn't play. Did you see anything from Jordan Love that indicates he could come out and play okay against the Seahawks? Granted, the Chiefs defense is terrible. The Seahawks have taken a step forward. I know everyone that's a Seahawks fan that's listening to our pod is probably saying, Chris, they played the Jaguars. They won 31-7. That was good for that defense to find their groove. But did you see anything from Mr. Love that indicates if Aaron Rodgers is not capable of playing, that he can go out there and make things challenging for this Seahawks defense?
I didn't see much that would lead me to believe that. It's obviously his first ever NFL start, so I'm not expecting him to be Aaron Rodgers. Matt LaFleur said he was proud of how Jordan Love stood in there, and the Chiefs blitzed on 17 of his 34 dropbacks. That's a lot.
Yeah.
They said, let's just throw the kitchen sink at him, see how he handles it, and he did not handle it well. If Aaron Rodgers plays, A, the Chiefs don't blitz as much, and B, he's able to find the hot reads when they do blitz. I didn't see much. He can move. He's more mobile, obviously, than Rodgers, creating stuff with his feet, but accuracy was not great. Maybe I'm just, and you guys too, probably. You watch Geno Smith and you're like, what the hell is this? Well, we're both spoiled to cover future Hall of Fame
drop
quarterbacks.
off is very stark.
Right,
Yeah.
and watch them throw. And that's unfair, I guess, but it is what it is. And, Jordan Love targeted Davante Adams 14 times on Sunday, and they only connected 6 times. And several of those throws were very, very makeable throws that we see Rodgers and Adams connect on week in and week out. And I asked Jordan Love about that after the game, and he was like, yeah, we just don't have that chemistry because they're not practicing together. He's not throwing to him in practice. So in terms of staring down, if Jordan Love does start, I expect the Seahawks to throw the kitchen sink at him again. LaFleur and Rodgers went on Pat McAfee today and said he was proud of how Jordan kind of just stood in there and hung in there. He said he made some really nice throws, and there were a couple nice throws, but against pressure, we're going to have to see something a lot better from Jordan Love. And with a game of tape under his belt, some teaching points, I don't doubt that it could be better if he is the guy. Rodgers did say today on McAfee's show that there's a small possibility he does not play. So Rodgers seems to be fully expecting to play on Sunday.
Yeah, actually, we should get that particular out of the way real fast. So he just needs to. It's a minimum 10 days that you got to be out, and 10 days would be Saturday, and then all he needs at that point is one negative test that comes back 30 minutes right after. How does that work for him to play Sunday?
I believe so, and then to remain asymptomatic, and he
That's
said,
right, symptoms. Yeah,
he said today that he's feeling really good, and he said a couple days ago that he was feeling really good. So it seems that he's asymptomatic. He did say today with Pat that if he comes back on Saturday, he just needs to see how he said his heart. He was like, I want to make sure my heart can handle that physical exertion. He said he's going to start, or he has been doing some walking and yoga at home, and he's going to start ramping things up a little bit this week. Might have gotten a head start on Seahawks film, obviously, he said, because he knew he wasn't going to play against the Chiefs. So he's fully preparing to play. It seems that the only drawback could be if when he starts really ramping things up again, his heart isn't up for it. And I mean that literally, not like in a figurative sense.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I expect him to play. Obviously, I can't predict, how the human body is feeling or reacting, but just from what he talked about today, it seems like he's expecting to play as well.
I kind of figured it would be bad for Jordan Love when I think you asked LaFleur, like, hey, how ready is Jordan to start? And he was like, we'll see. It was like, Matt, that was not your time to be honest, my man. That was your time to just lie. To just say he's ready. Yeah, he prepared, all the stuff they told us about Geno. He prepares like a starter. The difference, I guess, with Geno is that he started before. Yeah, so that Jordan hasn't. So the lie is a little better. But when Matt, I don't know if you, Matt, thought that when LaFleur said it, but I heard that I was like, oh, wait a minute. Jordan might go out there and stick if the coach ain't even really willing to lie right here.
Right. No, yeah. It was funny because that was early in the week. I forget what day that was exactly, but it was a couple days before Wednesday when the news broke and LaFleur stepped to the podium. And I asked him again, I basically said, how ready is he to start? And LaFleur gave a better answer than the we'll see. He said, I think he's ready. He's confident. He's looked good in practice, and we think he's going to go out there and do it. Like that's what he should have said at the start instead of we'll see, since he's never started before. But it turns out that truth might have been right because it didn't look very good on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, LaFleur knows when guys are ready and when they're not. I just thought it was funny he didn't lie. Or give the not lie, but give the coach speaking answer like, yeah, he looks good in practice. It's not like you just met him yesterday. Like you watch him every day. Like
exactly.
Film and practice, whether he can throw the ball to Davante, and the answer was no. I think his only interception was a pass to Davante. Is that right? Yeah,
he threw one up near the goal line. It was kind of not a go ball necessarily, but a jump ball, and Love threw it too far upfield. And it's funny because a couple weeks ago after they beat WFT, I asked Rodgers something. Davante made an absurd sideline catch, and I asked Rodgers, how often do you throw something to Davante and think it's 50-50? And Rodgers said there's no such thing as a 50-50 ball when you throw it to Davante. He has the advantage every time. And I thought of that when Jordan Love threw that one up for Davante, because it looks like the same and it looks like, oh, Davante should have come down to that. But Jordan Love said after the game, I placed it a little too far upfield. And that's the difference between Rodgers and Davante, like the mere inches on a pass that give the best receiver in the league that much better of a chance to go up and get it. So, yeah, that was his only interception. Not great on third down, not great against the blitz. So the Packers are counting their lucky stars that Rodgers tests negative a couple times or just once, whatever it is, later this week.
And Seahawks fans know they're not going to suspend Aaron Rodgers for any potential violation to the process. All I got questions about, Mike, why don't this? Everyone turned into a cop after that when the Rodgers stuff came out.
Yeah,
you guys want this man thrown into jail. He doesn't get to come out until Sunday at, I don't know, what is that, like 8:30 Central Time or something like that. Whenever the game hits final, they want just Rodgers out of there because there is a fear. They don't want to admit it. There's a fear, man. Russ has never won at Lambeau. I think he's 0-4.
0-4, 0-3.
Yeah, he's 0-3 in the regular season and 0-4 if you count the 2019 playoff, the divisional round, which I just rewatched yesterday. Awful. Probably some of the worst coverage on Davante Adams I think I've ever seen. But
is Ugo Amadi still on the team?
Yeah, he is. And hopefully the Seahawks realize if it's third and anything, don't put Ugo on him, because I remember that play vividly. I remember Shaquille Griffin looking over, communicating, and in my head, I'm thinking, no, Shaq, switch it or just call timeout and the coach can chew you out. I'd rather have Shaq on Ugo at that time. The rookie was out there. I get it. No, you got to put your best player in that situation. I'm sorry.
It's interesting you bring that up because so often this year, teams have not doubled Davante at the line of scrimmage, but brought safety help. There were a couple times on Sunday against the Chiefs where you see Tyrann Mathieu looking like he's about to blitz on Davante's side when Davante's singled up outside. And then right before the snap, he backs off to, rotate post snap and give that safety help. I think that's why it wouldn't be a bad idea to sign Odell Beckham, just to free up Davante from some of those, some of that shading safety stuff. So we'll see what the Seahawks do with him. I would expect them to give a good dose of safety help too.
I hope that when you guys do get Odell, it's not this week and maybe he's not available on Sunday.
I disagree with that.
I don't want to see him.
I want to see Odell live.
Okay. Selfish reasons. Mike wants to see him live. I don't want to see him go for 150 yards, 2 touchdowns, and everyone's like, oh, he's back. He just has a great quarterback that can get him the rock. So hopefully it's a week after. Sorry, Mike. I know you want to see Odell
cook. Flying to Green Bay, dog.
You're going to see Davante Adams
Aaron
again.
Rodgers, Odell, DK, Tyler, Russ. I want to see it all, man. Everybody but Jordan Love.
It's an all-star game. I get it.
I really want to see everybody, man. I do. You know what sucks? One more thing on that divisional game. I believe that was Ugo's only snap against Davante.
Don't say
that game too.
See?
I'm pretty sure. Like I said, I rewatched the whole thing last night. I'm pretty sure that was his only snap on him too. It's one of those that Aaron and Davante was probably like, ooh, wait a minute, rookie, 28 on 17, third down. All right, go. And it went how everyone in the building with eyes thought it would go. And, I want to talk about Rodgers' his first interview with Pat on the Pat McAfee show. What was that, 46 minutes of him? 46 minutes of him trying to explain himself. And I think everyone has had time to process and write their think pieces that are very good. I think that all these have been very good. I think our Lindsey Jones had one as well after the game Sunday about just how irresponsible the misinformation piece of the Aaron Rodgers interview is, because he did give a lot of misinformation about the vaccine and fertility, and his stuff about being allergic to something in the vaccine was like sketchy at best. If you just check the numbers, like there was some stuff in there that's legitimately harmful at a time we're trying to get through a pandemic. If you would like that type of content, hang up, because honestly, Matt, I want to talk about Rodgers in this sense, because I remember after he said the thing following the playoff loss last year, and you mentioned that he's very calculated. Every syllable is thought of beforehand. And I liked that, because I was like, yes, Russ is very similar. Everything he says has purpose. So I know everything he said on that Pat McAfee show, he was thinking about beforehand. So Matt, my question to you is, how the hell does he do all that thinking and come up with that particular Martin Luther King quote to invoke at that time in that context?
Well, it's not funny, but when you say he's very particular with his word choice, you look back at when he was asked on August 26th if he was vaccinated, and he looked us all in the eye and said, yeah, I'm immunized. And we kind of just laughed it off. We were like, who would try and work around that by using that? And turns out him. There were a couple of things. Listen, I agree with, and I've tried to avoid, writing these columns. I just wrote the story about here are the main talking points you should know from that. It was weird, the timing, because I was literally standing outside the door to get into practice on Friday, and I get a DM from a follower saying Rodgers is about to go on McAfee. And so I didn't go into practice. I hustled back to my office at Lambeau, 46 minutes. And then it ends right as LaFleur and Jordan Love and Davante Adams are going to the podium. So here's my thing. The bodily autonomy stuff, yes, he is right. It's his body, it's his choice. But the harmful part of it is when you're saying, the J&J stuff. J&J was put back into circulation, and the clotting issues were, I believe, 6 in every 1 million women. And Rodgers said he had an allergy to an ingredient in Moderna and Pfizer, and then J&J had clotting issues. Well, the J&J clotting issues were with women. And listen, I'm not saying that there are crazy people out there. There might be who listen to everything Rodgers says and takes it. But let's say there's someone out there, and I'm just hypothesizing, who's still on the fence about getting the vaccine, and they hear Aaron Rodgers say that about J&J. They're like, oh, I'm not getting it. But what he said was wrong. And then he says that he's consulting with Joe Rogan for how to heal. And, he said today on McAfee, he kind of cleared it up. He was like, I consulted with a lot of friends who have healed with COVID. But still, like, if you're going on McAfee and it was, I think, 77,000 people watching live.
Wow.
And Rodgers had a sheet of paper in front of him. He came ready with his notes. The MLK quote was ridiculous because I think it was Taylor Rooks who quote tweeted me and said, MLK said that sitting inside a Birmingham jail. He did, and he didn't say it for, I'm paraphrasing here. She didn't say this, but for a white quarterback to say when he's talking about choosing to get the vaccine or not. So I wasn't a huge fan of that, his choice of that, the Joe Rogan stuff, the fertility stuff. It's just, here's a guy who thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. Sometimes he is, and he didn't come across great in that interview. Now, I don't know if Packers PR or whoever told him, said, don't do this. But they didn't tell him to do that. I can bet you that. But if you know Aaron Rodgers, you know that he marches to the beat of his own drum. And if he doesn't want to, he will not listen to anyone.
Yeah, no, that's another way. And I keep bringing up the Russ and Rodgers parallels because I do think on a macro level, they are very interesting in that they both kind of want to be like a second GM. Essentially, they feel like that's what they are entitled to based on their performance and their positional value. They're very calculated with their words. And just what you said there, like, even look at Russ's his updates with his finger. They all came before the official team stuff. He posts a picture, then the team puts out pictures. He posts a picture from the surgery, then you get the quote from the doctor that did it. Like, it is the beat of his own drum thing. And you wonder how sustainable that is when someone's willing to just kind of go over, or at least go outside the structure. Oh, players don't really give interviews during the week unless it's like, oh, behind the team backdrop. Nope. I'm going to do Pat McAfee every Tuesday that he does it. Like, it's the operating outside of the structure just because I'm freaking good at my job. That's an interesting precedent to look at on a macro level. And then, but really on a micro level, it's just really funny that he cited Joe Rogan and then used all of the anti-vaxxer bingo card notes with, hold on, let me see if it was Woke Mob.
And then he said, before everyone puts the final nail in my cancel culture casket. That was in his first line. And at that point I was like, this is going to be long, isn't it?
that was such good stuff. I mean, not good for like you, because you have to cover it, and it's a fine line between covering that stuff and then having the opinions. But for us, I don't know about Chris, because we weren't together. I was on vacay when that happened. But oh man, that was such great stuff. But there is something on the organizational side I'm interested about too, because they knew he wasn't vaccinated. So I'm not going to play cop like a lot of my followers on Twitter were doing, but did they facilitate him like misleading everyone all year, or are we reading that wrong?
No, I don't think they facilitated it. And if I had to guess regarding the no mask at the podium stuff, if I had to guess, my guess would be that he was told his options before the season and said, you either got to go on Zoom like the other unvaccinated players do, like Alan Lazard only does press conferences on Zoom, or you can go to the podium with a mask on. And my guess is Aaron Rodgers said, nope, I'm doing whatever I want.
Right.
And it's interesting because Alan Lazard wears a yellow kind of like sweatband around his ankle. That means he's not vaccinated. Like the players who are vaccinated wear green because it holds their trackers. And the yellow ones that hold trackers mean you're not vaccinated. Aaron Rodgers has not worn a yellow one all season. So clearly there was an intent to hide this. When he was asked by Pat, why he didn't, I guess, just straight up say he was unvaccinated, Rodgers' thing was basically like, it's people are trying to shame you for being unvaccinated, and I didn't want to have that, blow up in my face. He knew what he was doing. And today on McAfee's show, he said, I realized that I misled people. He didn't apologize because he said, I stand by what I said and I have to do what I think is right. But he did acknowledge that he misled people. And when he spoke last Friday, he did not acknowledge that. There was no remorse. There was, I'm going to do whatever I want. Stop trying to cancel me. The media is trying to shame me. All the buzzwords, whatever. Today, there was a little bit more remorse. I'm not saying what he did was right. And he's right in saying reporters are vaccinated. We have masks on. Do I care that he's up there without a mask? Not really. Maybe other people do. I'm not going to speak for them. But it's not our job to not report on something if it doesn't bother us. It's our job to report on when the reigning NFL MVP is breaking NFL rules, no matter how silly or not they are. So, yeah, that immunized thing was interesting. He knew exactly what he was doing. And he said today with Pat, he's like, I'm not going to address any vaccination stuff publicly anymore. So it looks like he kind of just wants to it's kind of like a grenade. He threw it out there, it exploded, and now he's just not touching it anymore.
Are people giving you guys, I mean, you guys, but being Packers media, are they giving you guys flack for not challenging the immunized thing in real time? I'm not, but are the people doing that to you guys?
There are some. I think the general consensus is that, like, how would we have known that? The interesting thing is he was asked a follow-up question about competitive advantage, because at the time was when the whole Kirk Cousins unvaccinated thing was going on. And he answered that question talking about competitive advantage as if he was vaccinated. And it wasn't just, I'm immunized. It was, I'm immunized. He said right after that, I don't judge anyone who's unvaccinated. And now we know it's because he didn't want to judge himself.
Yeah, because he's in that group. Yeah.
Yeah, so it wasn't just I'm immunized. It was a stuff he said after that to intentionally make it seem, maybe it wasn't. People who say he lied, technically he didn't lie, but he certainly intentionally misled.
Yeah, and I think that's where you guys deserve a little bit of slack. It wasn't just the I'm immunized part. Have you seen the full quote, Chris?
Yeah, I've watched it and like, dang. Great lawyer talk. Who was on your corner?
Exactly.
Who was giving you the, hey, say this, that way, if they ask you questions, which, hey, so, how do you feel about the advantage? Oh, I get it. I'm in a situation. Yeah, whatever the case may have been, he was strategic with it. As you guys both have said, Aaron Rodgers picks and chooses what he says, and he does it very thoroughly, and he's calculated. And that was a very calculated moment when he went up there and said, I'm immunized.
Well, it's the additionally saying, there's some guys in here who ain't, but they're cool. They're cool in my book. It's like, what you mean? Though you talking about you?
Exactly.
It's the separation of himself from that group. That is where I would not have, if I was you guys, I wouldn't have followed up. If Russ would have said that, I'd have been like, oh, okay. He's implying that there are other guys who aren't vaccinated, and he rocks with them despite not being in lockstep with them, when in fact he's the leader of the group. That is where the deception is. That I hope if anyone, as I brought that up because there are probably also people listening who want to do the same. It's like, oh, you guys got fooled. No. Like Rodgers.
I just thought it was, to be honest, I just thought it was another one of those. He likes using big words sometimes because he's a smart guy. And I literally just thought immunized was his way of saying vaccinated, because he was like, I'm going to use a big word to talk about this right now. And technically, the dictionary definition, immunized is like a form of getting vaccinated.
I looked it up to verify.
Really?
Yes, I looked
So
it
he
up.
outsmarted himself.
What's crazy to think is this man was going to play the entire NFL season without being vaxxed, and he would have gotten away with it had he not gotten the COVID. That's crazy. He almost made it. He was halfway there.
Yeah,
He was.
What's the line of Scooby Doo? I would have got away with it with those meddling kids.
It's funny you say that. As soon as this happened, that was the quote that I was thinking of in the whole entire time, and I was like, "Who are the meddling kids in this situation? The NFL?"
Yes, whoever he was at the Halloween party with.
That's true.
I do want to let's talk to the game itself when we get into the Packers, because I brought up how the Seahawks are like Seahawks fans. There's a large faction of them, I imagine, that are hoping that he is disciplined, or that his Aaron Rodgers' tests come back negative, because that's a bad man. You know, like he's a very good quarterback, even though some of the offensive numbers aren't blowing the league away right now. Look at some third down stuff, red zone efficiency stuff. It's all middle of the pack. 9th in EPA per play on offense, which is obviously very, very, very good, and probably the most predictive stat of all of them. But I throw all these numbers out there to then ask you, Matt, just kind of where are you with the Packers offense in particular this year? And am I right to assume that it's not as dynamic as it's been in the first couple of years with LaFleur?
Yeah, you're right. Last year, they led the league in scoring in the regular season with 31.8 points per game. They scored 30 since week 3 when they beat the 49ers at the buzzer 30-28. I think since then it's been some 27s, 24s, and then a 7 with Jordan Love. Rodgers and LaFleur have both said something's a little off, like there's still a next step. Good thing for the Packers is their defense is playing lights out, and they're 7-2 because of their defense mainly, and their offense has done just enough. I don't want to make the injuries excuse. I mean, against Arizona, they didn't have Davante, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Alan Lazard. The best offensive lineman in football, arguably David Bakhtiari, first-team All-Pro left tackle, has not played yet this season. They'll most likely activate him from the PUP list tomorrow on Wednesday. He tore his ACL in week 17 in practice last year and hasn't played since. He's been practicing for a couple weeks now. But getting him back, and then they just lost Robert Tonyan, their tight end, who tied for the league lead among tight ends in touchdown catches with 11 last year, tied with Travis Kelce. So they're banged up. But getting Rodgers back, having that full staple of receivers, when Odell and Davante are lining up on opposite sides as each other, that's dangerous. And
very.
It's interesting because Elton Jenkins, who's the Pro Bowl starting left guard for the NFC last year, in his second season in the league, he's been playing left tackle. So and he's been playing fine, not exceptional, but he could start at left tackle if he had to. But getting Bakhtiari back, allowing Jenkins to, slide back to either left guard or center, wherever he plays, getting some pieces in on that offensive line, receivers back, Rodgers. The running game's been pretty good. A.J. Dillon is emerging as a pretty dominant runner. I think you could start to see some things click. But no, it hasn't been clicking on all cylinders like we're used to seeing, but it hasn't come back to bite them yet.
Let's flip to the defensive side of things and look at the Packers defense. Kevin King in the Super Bowl was having a rough day.
Or a title game.
Title game, excuse me.
Mike loves hating on Kevin King because he's a Husky.
Yes, I forgot. It was a title game against the Bucs. I don't know why I thought Super Bowl, but that would be a fun Super Bowl. Either way, Kevin King was getting cooked, as the homie Adrian Broner would say.
Cooked.
With that being said, what has the improvement been from that game up until now, especially going up against this Seahawks offense that will have Russell Wilson back? You know what DK and Tyler Lockett are capable of doing. How do you see Kevin King faring going up against these guys in this week 9 matchup?
Yeah, he played pretty well against the Chiefs. It was his first game back after missing a couple with, I believe it was a hamstring or a shoulder injury. It was. He's always banged up. He's only played. They brought him back on a 1-year prove-it deal. He hasn't proved much, but he did play well on Sunday. Eric Stokes, their first-round pick out of Georgia, the corner. He's given up some explosive plays, but the encouraging thing about him is in the same game he gives up those plays, he learns quickly from his mistakes and fixes it. Like against Arizona last Thursday night, he got cooked on that double move by DeAndre Hopkins or whatever it was, where Hopkins kind of looked up as if he was going to catch the ball. So Stokes stopped to go out for it. Then Hopkins just kept running. So he's been playing well, but he didn't play on Sunday because he went up for a ball in warmups in Kansas City, came down funny on his knee. So I don't know if he's going to play. Kenny Clark, their Pro Bowl caliber nose tackle, who's been awesome this year, had a back injury. He might not play on Sunday. Zadarius Smith, an all-pro pass rusher last year, he hasn't played since week 1, and he's not going to play on Sunday either. Jair Alexander, all-pro corner, he's not going to play on Sunday. So they're banged up.
Wow.
So it'll probably be Rasul Douglas and Kevin King on the outside, which could be very problematic. Although Rasul Douglas has played pretty well. They only gave up, I think it was 4 catches to Tyreek Hill and 1 explosive pass play. I know the Chiefs stink. The Chiefs offense is all out of sorts, but they played well. The big difference since that divisional game is Devondre Campbell, their middle linebacker. The Packers have not had a competent middle linebacker in over a decade. Devondre Campbell won NFC Defensive Player of the Month for October. He can stuff the run. He can guard against the pass. So often we've seen middle linebackers around here in recent times, tackle guys 5 yards after first contact, or let the ball carrier come to them and then drag them down, while falling backward another 2 yards. Devondre Campbell, stuffs guys. He's incredible against the run, really good in pass coverage, and he's really been a revelation. So that's the biggest difference in why this Packers defense has been so good. But, man, their pass rush is banged up. Their secondary is banged up. Their D-line's banged up. So if Russ comes back, it could be a sticky situation for the Packers D on Sunday.
Is Clark 97?
He is coming back. So, yeah, Clark is 97.
Okay. That's what I thought. He was kicking ass in the divisional game.
And he didn't play well last year. He was battling some injuries, played pretty poorly to his standards last year. They made him the highest paid nose tackle in NFL history in training camp last year. And then he didn't really live up to it, in injuries, obviously. But he's back this year. He's been playing really well. And Rashawn Gary, their 2019 first round pick, edge rusher out of Michigan, is, getting more playing time because Zadarius Smith is out, and he's been really good too.
Well, okay. So, actually, that's interesting. So Clark got paid after that playoff run.
Yes.
See, that makes sense because he's kicking ass. Like the Seahawks didn't bring back their center, Joey Hunt, after that season, and I'm pretty sure it's 99% because of that game. Like I was watching the game, being like, "Yo, 97 is kicking 53's ass in this game," and it was very bad. I promise. I'm gonna try. I was about to say promise. I'm gonna try to go easier on Kevin King this game. Like I didn't even I had like 2 tweets about Kevin King in the NFC title game.
That's all it takes.
It was just 2. And I think it was just 1. I think I tweeted, "Where did Kevin King go to college?" That's it. I just remind me where he went to college. That was after he got beat by what's the little small
Scotty
receiver?
Miller.
Yeah. Scotty freaking Miller Burns.
You want to hear a funny Kevin King story? I'll let you finish. Go ahead.
No. Yes. The answer to that question is yes. Give me one. What you got?
So I think this was after they beat the Raiders by a couple touchdowns in 2019 in week 7. Kevin King had an interception that game. And I don't know if it was Sunday night. This is going to reveal a little bit of my degeneracy. But after I was done working that Sunday night, I went to – it was probably Monday, the following Monday. I went to the casino here and was playing blackjack. And I was sitting next to a guy at the table who looked like Eric Berry. And he was still – I think Eric Berry was still taking visits at that time. And I got talking to him, and he kept asking me what I do. And we were getting into it while we're playing. I forget how I did. I think I won $200 that night. I forget. But I asked him, I said, "Does anyone ever tell you look like Eric Berry?" He was like, "Oh, I've gotten that a lot." And he was like, he kept asking me, "What do you think of the team?" And then he was like, "What do you think of Kevin King?" I was like, "That's an odd question to ask."
It's definitely Eric Berry.
And at the time I was like, "Oh, he's good," because 2019 King, was top 5 in the league in interceptions, passes defense. He stayed healthy for the first time. So I was like, he's good. And then after about an hour playing together, this guy gets up from the table. Was like, "Nice to meet you. I'm Kevin King's older brother."
Oh.
So I was like, thank God I didn't trash him, as I might have got my ass beat at the blackjack table.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that could have gone.
And I put it together. I was like, he does kind of look like Kevin King.
It's funny.
But it was because Kevin King is from Oakland, so that's why family was in town to watch him play the Raiders.
That's a funny story. I'll tackle that one with mine. Go
You
ahead,
got a
Mike.
Kevin King story too?
No, I have
I'm about to say.
I have a story that's pretty similar in the situation where I didn't know who this guy was at first. So I used to work at Finish Line, and there was a young man that came in there about 5'9". He had some Seahawks sweats on. Hey, don't really know mine. I didn't know who it was, of course. So I'm like, oh, what's up, man? How you doing? I see you got the Seahawks gear on. You think they're going to win Sunday? And he was like, yeah, they're going to win. I was like, bet. And I was like, so, what are you looking for? He's like, oh, I'm just checking out some shoes. Pretty much, I had no idea who this guy was. My boss pulls me aside and he's like, you know who just left the store, right? I was like, no. He was like, that was Jeremy Lane. I was like,
oh, what's that?
I was like, Jeremy Lane, like cornerback for Seahawks. He was like, how you not notice? This is before we doing the Seahawks man-to-man podcast. So this is when I want to say like 2015, 2014. So 2 years prior to us doing this show. But I had no idea. I go and tweet him. I was like, so you're in Finish Line and you was going to act like you wasn't playing on the team? And he was just like, hey, man, I was just low-key. You didn't say anything wrong. I appreciate it, but I wasn't looking for anything. I was chilling. I was like, okay, I get it. So when you brought up the fact that you're just talking to some guy, you're like, oh, it might be Eric Berry. Come to find out it's Kevin King's brother.
Yeah.
I feel you, because I could have been like, oh, yeah, see, I was about to get mopped. You know that corner over there, Jeremy Lane? He's been struggling, bro. He going to get cooked. Literally, it's Jeremy Lane right there. So I thought that was telling and funny.
I told Kevin that because that was
story too. That'd been hilarious.
That was back when we were allowed in the locker room. So I told Kevin the other day, I was like, yeah, I was playing blackjack with your brother, and he thought it was pretty funny.
Oh, yeah, that could have gone like if that would have happened to me, like right after the title game, and somebody just happened to ask, I was like, I'd been like, well, let me tell you, buddy. Let's order some drinks. Let's talk about number 20 for the Packers, and that probably would have got pretty bad. I'm gonna go easy on him this game. I try not to.
Now that he's getting cooked, you won't. I guarantee you, if he's giving up touchdowns and the Seahawks are throwing his way every time, you will have to tweet something. You can't not now say anything.
It'll depend. It might depend on how the Cougs do on Saturday and how the Huskies do on Saturday as well. Like that.
There's more points to it. Okay.
Yeah. So remind me, Matt. Tell me. I gotta find somewhere to go watch the Cougs on ESPN on Saturday. But that's besides the point. But I want to flip back to the offensive side of the ball, the Packers, real quick, because were you at the combine in 20? You at the 2019 combine or no 2020 combine? How that's gonna bug me. Which
2019.
What year is AJ Dillon?
It was 2020 since that was before the pandemic. AJ Dillon is in his second year. He was a second round pick in 2020.
Man, I like that guy.
Yeah,
I was thinking. I thought he would fall to like day 3 because he's got tree trunks for thighs. I don't know if you've seen this guy, Chris. And at Boston College, he made them look like children. There is there like a world where he is the lead back at some? I know Aaron Jones is super nice, but you know what I mean? Like I think like when they drafted AJ, I was for sure they weren't going to re-sign Aaron Jones, and now it just feels like they're like caging this beast, this AJ Dillon dude, who I think is like a monster.
Yeah, he's really special. I think right now he could be a lead back for a lot of teams, and it's interesting because, it was a surprise when they drafted him so high, but they had Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams both in contract years last year, so they knew they weren't going to be able to keep both of them. They obviously re-signed Aaron Jones instead of re-signing their center, Corey Linsley, and I don't know if people agreed with that, but AJ Dillon has been awesome. His rookie season got off to a rough start because he got COVID and missed 5 weeks because of it. It really hit him hard. And then he ran for 120 yards, 2 touchdowns against the Titans on Sunday Night Football in Week 16 last year. On Sunday, there was an early drive. I don't know exactly how many yards he had, but Dillon carried them down the field. A couple runs, a screen pass. And then they run Aaron Jones up the gut twice, get stuffed, and then throw a screen pass to Jones that Jordan Love throws way high. I don't want to say far too many times, but a couple times because Matt LaFleur has only lost 5 games in the last 2 regular seasons, but he admits that he went away from A.J. Dillon. Like, you'll always see Dillon get a couple carries to get going, and then he vanishes for a little bit. That happened again on Sunday, and it does seem like, listen, Aaron Jones is an elite running back. He's great. I won't say he's top 5, but he's great. It does feel like having Aaron Jones there is kind of handcuffing A.J. Dillon's full potential. Now, it's good for the Packers because having 2 awesome running backs, keeps people guessing. It's how they beat the Cardinals without their top 3 receivers. They just pounded the rock pretty much. A.J. Dillon, I think this was a solid true media stat. I think he averaged 3.8 yards after contact per rush. It's like the dude just bowls people over. And it's not just bowling people over. He's really quick, explosive, can cut. And then there is the stuff where he just runs through people. So, yeah, he's really special. You'll definitely see a good dose of him on Sunday. But it seems at this point, it's kind of more of a 1A, 1B thing.
Man, yeah, that's honestly good news for the Seahawks. If he just gets like 3 carries right there and it takes off, and then you just never see him to the 4th, because that dude, man, I was really I was like, man, the Seahawks should take that dude if he's like they're on like day 3. Packers took him 2nd round. Did I get that right? 2nd round pick. Yeah, and I was like, oh man, they smart over there. But we can't talk about the Packers Seahawks without talking about the best player or the best skill player on the field today, and that's Davante Adams.
Davante Adams is special. One of my favorite wide receivers. I will literally watch his highlights, his clips of his route running, because he is just a technician. He does it with ease, and he makes it look very easy. My question is basically, you mentioned what the Chiefs were doing with Tyrann Mathieu, bringing him down and trying to, quote unquote, double him. Although you mentioned the fact that if Aaron Rodgers is in there, he's making those type of throws. It doesn't matter. It's going to be a catch. Do the Seahawks have any chance of maybe even slowing down Davante Adams, or is it just going to be the fact that, hey, if Jordan Love is out there, you guys have a chance, but if Aaron Rodgers is going to be throwing to Davante Adams, I really don't give you guys a shot, because what we've seen this season, outside of Cooper Kupp, Davante Adams is the best guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the only chance they have is if they bring safety help on pretty much every play. If it's single coverage, he's probably going to win it. And that's how he went for, I think it was 11 catches, 206 yards, and a touchdown against the Bengals a couple weeks ago. Well, that was week 5, so about a month ago.
Just ridiculous numbers.
Yeah. But he hasn't topped 100 since then, because, teams are really giving safety help. Then he tests positive for COVID and misses the Cardinals game. And then, Jordan Love can't really find him on Sunday. It's interesting, off the football side, you mentioned his mom. I talked to his mom for 45 minutes the other day, since I have a, giant feature coming out on Davante's whole life story pretty much in a little bit. Nice. And all I need to do is sit down with him. And I was supposed to last week, then he tests positive, obviously. But the shameless plug, like I talked to Derek Carr on the phone a couple weeks ago for it, since they're obviously best friends from their time. Derek Carr threw 24 touchdowns to Davante Adams in 1 year at Fresno State.
Oh, Lord.
And Jock Peterson, the outfielder for the world champion Atlanta Braves, was the number 1 wide receiver on their high school team when Davante was the number 2 wide receiver. So
wow.
I talked to him, and his mom was awesome. Davante's her only kid, and I'm basically saying, like, for Seahawks fans who just see Davante as the player, he seems like equally as good of a dude. Great with media, great story about how, like, his mom wouldn't let him leave the house as the kid because she thought he was going to get shot or, end up in jail. He lived in a really rough part of East Palo Alto, California. He had such bad grades in high school that teams didn't, want to recruit him. Cal, actually, where Aaron Rodgers went, and obviously Marshawn Lynch saw his grades and said, no, we're not looking at you. And Fresno State was one of his, I don't know if it was only offer or one of few. So he's got a great story, and obviously he's become a great player. And it's funny because in 2015, I believe he led the league in drops. Like, people were calling for his absolute neck and saying he should be cut, whatever. They drafted him in the 2nd round in 2014, same draft as Aaron Donald, Khalil Mack, OBJ. And his mom told me a story about how she flew in from California one day for a game, and Davante did not play well that game. And on the drive back to Davante's house, he was driving and kind of had like a mini spaz attack in the car, just started screaming out of nowhere, I hate football. I hate football. I hate this shit, like all that kind of stuff. And when they got home, he locked himself in his room and just didn't talk to her because he was playing so poorly. And now he's become the best receiver in the league, about to be the highest paid receiver in the league. But yeah, you gotta give him safety help to make the short answer short.
Hey, that's perfect.
No, I love that story.
That was perfect. I don't know how I'm gonna follow up with that, because that was such a great answer. But with that happening, let's say the Seahawks figure it out and they're able to slow him down. Who is next up in that Packers receiving core that you're like, oh, if you're going to double Davante, that means this guy is going to do their job? Because we saw, I'm assuming everyone did watch the game against the Cardinals where, okay, we're missing Davante, but we're going to have these other guys step up. Who else is going to fit in that role and step up big if Davante Adams is going to have safety help over the top, making it challenging for him to go off?
Yeah, it'll be one of three guys. Randall Cobb, who Rodgers has a really good rapport with, obviously. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who's more of a deep threat, but he can do the other stuff, the underneath stuff. And then Alan Lazard. It's going to be one of those three guys. You're going to see more 4 wide receiver sets because Robert Tonyan, obviously their only real pass-catching tight end, is out for the year with a torn ACL. Tore it at the end of 33-yard catch and run against the Cardinals. But their other 3 tight ends are more blocking guys and more inline guys. So you're going to see Cobb, Lazard, Valdez-Scantling, Beckham get a couple catches.
I was waiting for it. I was waiting for the
Davante's doubled. And those guys are capable. They're not household names, and people on the outside might be like, oh, the Packers don't have receiver depth. Like, those guys are more than capable. They're obviously – it's not a room like Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, but they are guys who can get the job done and who can definitely, make things happen if Davante's covered.
Yeah, no, I think that I've mentioned this on the podcast before. I don't envy's not the word, maybe admire is how the Packers have, because I mean, let's be honest, like you said, Lazard, MVS, Cobb, like that's good, but it's not like, oh, we're afraid of those guys. And
Right.
Every team knows that. Every team pays their defensive coordinator. The defensive coordinator has probably been in the league for a very long time, yada, yada, yada. And Davante still goes out there and kills. And it's just like it's very impressive that the Packers find ways to do that. You watch the tape of their games, and it's like, they find ways to get him all 3 levels. He's involved all the time. Very rarely has like a drought like DK Metcalf just had on Monday night against the Saints. First quarter, 84-yard touchdown. Doesn't get a target until the 4th. It's very rare I see those lulls with Davante.
He's throwing a Davante no matter what. He's throwing a Davante no matter what.
That's how you do it. That's how you do it. When you have really good receivers, you throw it to them all the time.
That's the thing. I saw you tweet that. It's like people say, oh, is he forcing it? There are some times where he should probably look elsewhere, but there's no such thing as throwing it to Davante Adams too much.
It really is. Is he the focus of our over-under this week?
Yes, he is.
Okay, what you got? What you got for Matt? You got to have you pick an over-under.
So over-under, here it is. Over-under, Davante Adams, 8.5 catches. My guess is he's going to go for like 10 or 12, but let's hear your thoughts. What do you think? You think he's going to go over or under 8.5 catches?
I'm going to go under.
Oh.
But I think it'll be 8 because
you can
the
tell
Seahawks have seen. I do. But not on Packers. I've never bet on a game that I cover because I get too emotionally invested in it, and I can't have that affecting my writing. But I'll go under just because I think. Who's playing quarterback?
Oh, good question in this hypothetical. Aaron Rodgers.
Well, just exactly.
Yeah,
Aaron Rodgers.
I don't want to fly to Green Bay and watch Jordan Love. So
I'll go slightly under because I think the Seahawks are going to find a way to take him away. I'll go 8 catches for 95 and a touchdown on 12 targets.
Seahawks lose with that one.
No, I mean you never know, but I mean, so that's a good. I'm glad you picked 8, but 8 impactful catches. Like for instance, for reference, last time he played the Seahawks, he had 8 catches, but he went for 160 yards,
exactly,
and 2 touchdowns on 11 targets. So very similar, like not a similar line, but like he can be impactful if he only catches 8, especially if 2 of them's touchdowns.
Yeah,
they were crazy. All right, yes it is. Drum roll. Oh wait, there's no drums. But we're gonna have you make a pick. That's our opposing beat writers are 3 and 2 this year. Okay.
Over 500.
Let's see if most of them have gotten it wrong when they've picked the Seahawks. We don't have to go through each one, but all right, Matt, what you got? Give us a score for Sunday.
I'm gonna give 2 picks. One if Aaron Rodgers is the QB. One if Jordan Love's the QB.
That'll work. In both scenarios, let's assume Russell plays.
Right.
Yeah.
If Jordan Love plays, I'm going to go Seahawks 24, Packers 17. If Aaron Rodgers plays, I'm going to go Packers 31, Seahawks 24.
Well, how do the Seahawks get more points with Aaron Rodgers in there, man? I thought you were going to keep it 17.
No, wait, they scored 24.
No, they scored 24 regardless.
Yeah, 24 regardless.
I'm saying if Jordan Love plays, the Seahawks win by 7.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
My bad.
And if so it's a 14-point swing. He's basically saying.
Gotcha. Okay.
Aaron Rodgers, which seems about
reasonable.
Right. What's the line of this game? You guys know off the top of your head?
5.5. Packers minus 5.5.
Minus 5.5.
There it is.
So Vegas thinks Aaron Rodgers is playing. Well, Aaron Rodgers thinks Aaron Rodgers is playing too. So.
I was gonna say that's a good point.
I mean,
there.
I think like Aaron Rodgers, and he's gonna play. He's gonna, even if there's no practice, because he wouldn't get to practice, right? He would just have to come up off the yoga mat and come play. But I think Aaron Rodgers is capable of doing that.
When's the last time you saw the line, Matt?
this morning.
Oh, we got movement.
Yeah, it's now Green Bay -3.5.
Oh, we got movement, huh?
Really?
Interesting. All right, never gamble, folks. Never gamble. We're not.
So
encouraging.
maybe
I guess they think Odell Beckham Jr., the Seahawk, is going to cook Kevin King a couple times on Sunday.
Oh man, I have to just mute the words Kevin King on Twitter.
That might be a good idea for you,
on
Mike.
Sunday, but that
He's going to get cooked by Lockett in the first quarter, and you're going to see at Mike Dugar on Twitter, he's a Husky. That's a Husky.
Oh, you know what? I am. I lied earlier. I said I was going to take it easy. No, I'm not. If he gets cooked, I'm definitely going to have my tweets ready to roll, as long as I don't run into his brother or something like that at the after the game. Hopefully that's not the case. But ladies and gentlemen, listen to the Seahawks Man to Man podcast. That is the homie Matt Schneidman. Does a great job covering the Packers. As you can listen to all the insight, man. You haven't even been around the Packers that long, right? 2-3 years, 3 years.
Third year covering them.
Yeah, third years, and just a lot of depth, a lot of knowledge. Right, great insight. We appreciate it. We appreciate the insight preview in the game. We appreciate the Kevin King story, the Davante Adams story. We got a lot of stories on the pod, so I like that. That's
Story
good,
time
man.
with Matt.
You know, you got the you said you got the Davante feature coming. Anything else you want to plug beforehand before we let you go?
No, I mean, I got a real nice mailbag coming out tomorrow morning. No, I'm kidding. It's just nothing else. I probably gave away a couple details of that story. Now I just need to sit down with Davante, which hopefully will happen this week, and then transcribe 20 or something interviews.
All right. That make sure you guys go follow Matt. Matt, you're verified on Twitter, yeah?
I am.
What is your Twitter handle?
At Matt Schneidman, just my name, all lowercase.
Oh, there you go. So that's 2 of the 3 people on this podcast that are verified. I'll let you guys on the audience decide who was.
I didn't know where you were going with that one.
Chris knew where I was going with that.
Tell.
Coming soon.
We appreciate you guys tuning into the podcast, man. We'll catch you guys after the game. Shout out to Matt for joining us. Shout out to everyone listening on Spotify, The Athletic, Apple, and everything. And shout out to our YouTube subscribers as well. We are still on a path to 1,000 subscribers. We're getting there. Hit that button. Tell your friends to hit that button. Tell your mama to hit that button. Tell Kevin King's brother to hit that button so we can get to 1,000. Until next time, folks, we're out.